The athletes were gonna be here, right?
Oh, there.
Okay, that's good. Purely, if you wanna go see Derek with me.
Yeah, I gotta wait and see. I'm waiting on one meeting. It's either gonna be Thursday or Friday. I don't know yet. So
Okay,
as soon as I know.
okay. So. These.
Usually comes up fast. Yeah.
There's some teachers here and some parents here. Supposed to be a lot of them.
Well, I didn't know if the presentation for the athletes, if they're getting a recognition of some sort that we get a lot of parents for that.
I hope so. I hope at least most of it is. I think it's a good chunk of it. Yeah.
That was a big one. Well, they're doing their annual reviews, so.
You know, one. Already.
Who asked for this, man?
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I have everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Open.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, roll call. Mary Ann?
Here.
Scott?
I'm here.
I'm so sorry. Maisha, I forgot you. Maisha? Brian?
Here.
Dirk?
Here.
Danny? Here. Peter?
Here.
And I am here. May I have a motion and a second to approve roll?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? The approval of the agenda. Do we have any comments? We'll be voting on it next week.
So if I wanted to, yes, I do, Madam President, on the approval of the agenda, if I were to add a resolution or a proposal, where would I do that? This week or next week?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean. You want to add what to the agenda?
Something for discussion and.
Oh, something for discussion. This week you would ask to add it and then it would go on the agenda next week?
Okay.
Do you have something you need to add?
Very specifically, if I could add a proposal to help tweak the start-stop bus proposals. Our proposal that's being, again, presented again tonight. So that the board could take a look at it and maybe improve on some things that are causing the community to have some issues. So I don't know how you would do that. Add it as an item, I believe. Again, I'm asking.
Yeah,
I guess he would make a motion to add an item to the agenda and then you would take a vote on whether you wanted to add it or not.
I'm sorry, I was writing it. I didn't hear what she said.
make a motion to add it to the agenda, take a vote if we want to add it to the agenda.
Is that for tonight or for next?
It would be added to next week's agenda for us to discuss next week. Or do we add it to tonight's agenda? I don't know how to do this.
I think we could probably just bring it up next.
I was gonna say, I think we could just add it to the agenda for next week
We don't need,
without having to do the vote, I think. Sherry's looking, I'm not sure of that one. I thought we could.
We could.
Okay.
do it that way.
Thank you.
So you will further discuss with Dr. Genestri what you need
Yes.
the conversation to be?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions about the agenda? Okay. Comments or questions on minutes from last week? We will also be voting on this next week. Nope. Okay. Communications, we have one letter from Linda Lascala. I know we've all had some communications from the community. Does anybody else have any communications? Okay. Unfinished business, we have none. Dr. Genestri, your turn.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Battaglia. I have. I'll be able to get it up there now.
Dr. Disney, I don't know if we're having some technical difficulties here. We might have to fly without the presentation.
Oh, okay. But we'll make sure, I think it's posted already,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
okay. So, a couple of things tonight, but first we wanted to start off with, recognizing our, all Western New York Scholar athletes, that are in attendance tonight. We had quite a list of, our student athletes who I know, take on a lot academically, but also contribute their time to Sweet Home Athletic Program to make it what it is. And I like to call up our athletic director, Chris Schumo, to recognize our student athletes, talk about the fall season, and make a little presentation to the board. So, Mr. Schumo, yep.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Cumo. I'm the Director of Athletics for the Sweet Home Central School District. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Board of Education, as well as our district leaders for their continued support of our athletic program. Our student athletes don't sit here today without their support. Tonight's about our student athletes. The students that we'll recognize tonight thrived in their particular sport, as well as the classroom. They are leaders, they're the headlights for future Panthers, and they took on such a leadership role throughout their season. And we had about 18 honorable mentions, and we had one overall winner for the season. So how this works, student athletes who average a 90 or above over their 6 previous semesters are eligible to be honorable mentions for All Western New York. And then it's up to the coaches to write letter of recommendations. They're allowed to select one winner for their team. They send it off to a committee amongst the 96 schools in our section. And the committee will then, based off the letter of recommendation, recognize winners for each school. Okay, so we were fortunate. We had about 18 honorable mentions. And like I said, one winner. So at this time, student athletes, I will call you up. We have a nice little certificate for you. And an opportunity to just recognize you for all your hard work and all your efforts that you contribute to our athletic program. Okay, so do you want me to?
Yeah, and then they can come around and.
Perfect. Okay, so the first student athlete that we would like to recognize as a member of our tennis team is Maya Atala.
Get your picture.
Congratulations.
Great job.
The next student we'd like to recognize is a member of our varsity boys golf team, Nathan Darling. The next student athlete we'd like to recognize is the goalkeeper for our women's soccer team, McKenna Flato.
Yeah, for everything.
The next student athlete I'd like to recognize is the member of our girls volleyball team, Ella Hubert.
Congratulations, Ella. Sure.
Good job, Ella.
Congratulations, Ella. I didn't know you'd be here tonight. There you go.
The next student athlete we'd like to recognize was a runner for our girls cross country team, Kendra Kapuzak.
Congratulations, Kendra.
Our next scholar athlete we'd like to recognize is a teammate to Kendra on the girls cross country team, Taylor Nugent. Haler also just this past weekend finished second at New York State Championships for indoor track and field in the event of race walk. The next scholar athlete we'd like to recognize tonight was a member of our girls volleyball team, Margaret Palouche.
Congratulations.
The next scholar athlete we would like to recognize was a member of our girls golf team, Emily Phillips.
You tried a great job, Emily.
Congratulations. Very nice.
Our next student athlete we'd like to recognize was a member of our girls volleyball team, Cameron Smith.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations. Great job.
And before we get to our winner for the fall season, I know a few student athletes were not able to make it. Any of those student athletes that I did not call? Okay. And then I'd like to recognize our solo winner for the fall season, a member of our boys volleyball team, Frankie Belani.
Nice job. Frankie with it. Good job.
Turn around, turn around.
Turn around.
Don't really need to be in the middle of that,
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
And then real quick, if I can have all the student athletes that we recognize tonight, please come up forward. We like to do one quick photo before we allow them to be dismissed.
If they would like. Yeah.
We should step out of the
I was
way.
just gonna say,
Let's step out of the way.
don't be shy. Got a little announcer in there.
Getting out of the way.
I'll stumble in between. Congratulations. Everyone told me I was too ugly. Yeah, I went into like the radio broadcasting. That's what
Parents, you can get up and take pictures if that's what you'd like to do. Please don't be shy.
All right, one more round of applause for all our hardworking student athletes. Students, thank you very much. You are welcome to stay for the duration of tonight's meeting, or you can sneak out now.
Riveting. So riveting.
Yeah, it's more.
Oh, I can.
It's warm outside. Was it nice out?
Yeah.
Ready for Monday?
Oh, yeah.
I will see you out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know where he got it.
Love seeing the kids.
I know.
Love seeing the
I
kids.
hadn't had a chance to do that in a while. It's nice. Thank
No,
you.
it's nice to see the kids.
Do you want to talk about start stop times? Come on, Chris. Chicken.
Thanks, Chris. I was gonna. I can do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'd just like to just stop for one quick second and let you guys all move on in, fill in so we can see your beautiful faces. We appreciate having an audience.
All right, ready? Okay. Um, as many of you have heard, the new proposed state budget has a law, under consideration, by both houses and by the governor to, remove cell phones and smartphones or smart devices, from schools bell to bell is the language that is currently being proposed. It's not adopted yet, but it's likely to be adopted as part of the state budget. Word out of Albany is that that budget could be delayed. It's supposed to be approved by law on April 1st. However, we are hearing that there could be delays well into April, but we wanted to get started on our work now. And since this will be a law coming out of Albany, we've asked Dr. Wilson to begin to form a task force of administrators, teachers, and staff to discuss potential policy changes to our cell phone policy. Right now, pre-K through 8 are not allowed to have cell phones with them during the day, but they are allowed in the high school. And so if this law is adopted under the state budget guidelines, we will have to change our policy around. And it's also a good time to look at the policy at the middle school to make sure it's working for our teachers and staff. So Dr. Wilson is currently forming, she already has a few volunteers that have committed to the task force to kind of review the policy and then come up with potential policy changes that would comply with the new law. And once we know what that is, obviously we want to comply with that. Once recommendations are developed by the task force, we'd like to do student town halls to get their feedback as well, to make sure that we're incorporating their voice in this. And then we'd like to conduct a parent town hall as well to make sure that their voice is heard before we finalize or adopt a new policy regarding cell phone use in the district. So once that feedback has been tabulated, we'd like to take the policy to our policy committee for their review, and then finally make a recommendation to the board to adopt into the code of conduct. So we've got some work to do ahead, but we wanted, even though it's not law yet, we wanted to get ahead of that work and make sure that we're in compliance come the 25-26 school year. Dr. Wilson?
Yes, so we see this as an opportunity to bring consistency around the use of devices during the school day across the entire district. So we're in the process of reviewing our code of conduct right now at this moment. So it's the perfect time for us to consider this work.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
Is parents, are we gonna have at least I know you're doing the parent town halls, but can we start with parents on that initial committee?
We definitely can look to add them, yes.
Yeah.
You know, just to get their input too and
Yes.
feel like they're having a process from the beginning. And the only thing I'm thinking is it's just one more thing for teachers to have to do. And it's just,
And then part of that work is going to be enforcement. How are we going to enforce that as a team? So that's a big piece of this. And so, but we're going to have to do it, and we'll be ready to do it with a lot of voices having input into it.
so initially they were talking about leaving it to the district level and then it all of a sudden showed up there. Is this a definite do? I mean, there's pretty much no doubt that budget's not going to pass with this in it.
Every year there are surprises in the budget, but this one looks like it's on a track to get through. But it came from the governor, so this is in her executive budget. So it's got a better chance than I would say in one of the houses that was proposed. Johnson, if you've heard.
I just going to say, it seemed like from what the conversations I've heard that it's a fairly good chance that it's going to go through. I also wanted to add for Dr. Wilson too, in particular, a couple of months ago, I saw a presentation put on by the superintendent and the high school principal from Lackawanna.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've already talked to them or not, but they have a policy in place now and how they're handling it, what their troubles are, what they're trying to do to tweak it. So it might be they may even be willing to come and talk to the task force once you get started.
Yes, so we have a number of schools that we've been in contact with, that we've researched, and we have the information to share with the task force to use. Lackawanna is one of them. But information from across the whole county and then across the state will be used.
Cool, thank you.
I've seen that presentation too, at my superintendent meetings. She's presented to the Erie One BOCES superintendents, so.
Okay,
They kind of got on the forefront of it, for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And I know it requires some tweaking as they go along.
Yep. So
Besides the time for staff to enforce this, is there a cost to this? Another unfunded
So,
mandate?
I would like to see what the task force does. There are districts like Lackawanna that use pouches, which, luckily we have lockers here. That could be an option for us as well. But they've got to be secure throughout the day. And they cannot be used from bell to bell. So that means no cafeteria use, as it's written right now in law, no cafeteria use, no hallway use. So that's something that we're going to need feedback on, and make recommendations to the board eventually, as this policy develops.
The governor did propose $12 million in her budget to help that. That's not going to go very far.
Having experience in this work as a principal myself, I can say that initially it starts off as something that everybody has to get used to, but then eventually it turns into less of a focus that the teacher has to have on the work because the students understand the expectation.
Questions on cell phones? Okay.
She's glad she's graduating.
And I will say though, when we did our superintendent student luncheons, there were kids at the high school that were ready for a change, and
One of our student
All the time.
elected speakers last year at graduation did
Yes.
his almost entire speech on how cell phones in the classroom is a problem.
so I think there's some sentiment in the high school about a change, and
Definitely.
we'll need their help to do it. So
Well, I could see it being more difficult for the parents in some regards.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of parents like to have a connection with their kids while they're in school, so that will be an adjustment as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Leibel, because
Policy, right?
that's got to be part of the law. There's got to be, in the new policy, there has to be something written about how parents can get in touch with their student during the day. So the task force will work on that as well. Right now, of course, any parent could call the office, but
When we were all in school, our parents had to call the office and then we got no, right? Like, I feel like those lines still
yeah,
work.
might be.
Might be
Gotta stop
going back old
that way.
school.
Yep. So we'll get there. You also may have noticed this week that we are down to our final 10 Panthers we have in our logo contest. The 10 finalists are represented one building, at least one per building. So each building has a final entry in there. We met with 26 shirts today to have our students work with the graphic artist team over at 26 shirts to develop them into these concepts into what could be our Panther logo. So we're very excited that this process is moving forward. It's been a fun project in the buildings and fun project for our students. There are 3 finalists from the high school, 3 finalists from the middle school, 1 finalist from each elementary building. They're going to work with the designers and we met with them today, so we're on track for that work. And then once the concepts are designed, they will be on display probably mid to late April for our community to decide and then vote on them, a final Panther on May 20th. So we're excited that we're moving forward. These are the names of the, in each building that have a concept in the final 10. And these are our final 10 concepts, and they have been published on our website. And I think they went out on social media as well. A big thanks to Christine for doing a lot of Christine Slagle for doing a lot of organizing around this. But we were blown away by the concepts and we are excited, and we think that we definitely have, the community's gonna have a hard choice, but Mr. Feldman, if you could flip to the next slide. There. Community's gonna have a hard choice picking, but we're excited that, in part of our branding process that we're going to, we're at the finish line here to get it done. So
Dr. Genestri,
Yes.
I forget how many we used to have or still exist.
Well, we had,
Are those somewhere? Is there somewhere where I
There-
can see all them or I have to just look around myself?
you got to look around. We did get 300 entries from our students, over 300 entries. There may be 300 different versions around the district right now. So, from the gym to the carpet here to, yeah, there's a lot of them. So, but just a great job by our students.
Is the guy with the tie the board member?
The one with the tie gets a lot of comments, that's for sure. We're excited and this has been student driven and that's a wonderful piece. And then our entire community will have a chance to vote on their favorite. So we're getting closer and just want to thank everybody. There's been literally hundreds of people involved in this process and it's been fun, a fun project so far. So. Last week, we received our first 3 electric buses in the district. You may have driven by the transportation center and seen 3 charging stations for those buses. So our charging stations and first 3 electric buses have arrived. Part of the feedback that we did receive from the board when we started the initiative over 3 years ago now was safety. And so Mr. Feldman and the transportation department organized a safety presentation held by Matthews Bus with first responders to talk about the differences in safety procedures for electric buses versus diesel. But they have arrived. We expect to have our electric buses on the road within the next week or so. And they, like I said, we had a great turnout for our safety presentation. We had a few board members there as well. They got to not only hear the safety presentation, but tour the buses, look at them inside and out. Major differences in the mechanics, obviously, of the buses and how they're maintained, but our maintenance staff has been trained. Our drivers are being trained and want to thank Amherst Police Department, Tonawanda Police Department, Brighton Fire Department. There were a bunch of others there too. From Gettsville was there. That were there and had great questions of the presenters and of the district to make sure that they're as safe as possible. So we do have, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but if our EPA funding stays in place, we do have a plan for 8 more buses to come into the district using that funding. And so we are working with our architects and transportation department to plan out the next charging stations to make sure our buses are properly charged and ready to roll. So
one thing I took away from that too is that from the Amherst Police, they talked about the policy that may have
Yes.
to change. So how will we get that looked at?
Yep. We can review that with the policy committee. And I think once, we've learned a little bit more about them as we move forward, we can look at our policies and make sure they're written properly.
I have to say, I was very happy with the presentation. One of the things that really struck me was, even though I've seen these buses at school board conventions and stuff like that, was the number of safety features that these things have and redundancies to the safety features was really, it was great to see. I mean, the number of things just that the buses stop on their own. If somebody takes their foot off the gas and things like that. I mean, there was all kinds of different things like that though. So it was nice to see.
How many of those little batteries are there in there?
8,000.
8,000?
Yeah.
Wrote it down somewhere.
Amazing.
Yeah. And they basically run the length of the bus underneath, encased in aluminum and
8,640 per battery pack.
right. So we're excited. It's been a lot of work to get to this point. And we will continue to be very, very diligent in finding every penny we can to finance this project, knowing that I want to reiterate, the mandate is still in place. It may change come budget time, but the mandate is still in place for us to have to buy electric buses starting in 2027 and completely flip our fleet by 2037. So we are on the path to do that.
We'd probably be remiss if we didn't say thanks to the person that you introduced me to that is so helpful with the grants and getting money secured.
Yeah, Matthews Buses, who's our partner with the busing, they've been very helpful with grants and as Dr. Genestri said, they ran the training for us. So they've been an excellent partner. You know, it's been our position all along to kind of be, you know, first out of the gate with this. We've been one of the leaders in Western New York in this process, and we're taking advantage of every relationship that we can to get to a point where, you know, we are rolling these buses out safely and cost effectively in terms of funding and things along those lines. So yeah, we're very, very happy thus far. Very
I
happy.
think it's important to note that between your office and Matthews and NYSERDA and a few others, that we've been able to get the cost down on these fairly close to the cost of a diesel
Yeah,
bus.
it's probably a couple of $1,000s one way or other, you know, in terms of that, but that was the goal. That's what we set out to do, to get, you know, for just, for instance, for these first 3 electric buses, we gained about $245,000 in funding for each bus. And then all 3 of the chargers, we had charging voucher application that was approved through NYSERDA, and those were paid at $155,000 a piece. So yeah, we've done very well in that realm of things.
We might not be the district that has the most electric buses. I know we're not, but I would say I'm confident in saying we're the district, the leading district in tapping every penny that we can to find, to support this program. So just kudos to Don and Scott Kennedy and all of our partners that we're working with to find this money.
Yeah, and then there is, you know, if you saw the email that Mr. Johnson sent out today, there is legislation in each of the houses, variations of the budget about the timeline, about issuing things like temporary stays and extensions and things along those lines. So we continue to operate like 2035 is the timeline until we're told otherwise. But, you know, I don't see it going away. I really don't.
It might be pushed back, but I was in Albany last week and it's no talk of it going away.
Correct.
Mr. Feldman, in the budget proposal for this coming year, are these buses going to be in use next year?
These buses will be in use by, I know Dr. Nestor said the end of March, but more likely probably the middle of April time. So they'll be on the road now. They're all here. So we're moving forward. These would have been buses that were approved by our voters last May, so May of 2024.
Okay, so they're going to be in use this
They
year.
will be, yes.
Are there additional buses we need to purchase for next year?
So in our recommendation, in our first glance of the budget that we presented to the board in February, we are proposing 6 buses, excuse me, 4 of which would be electric, 4 large electric buses, 1 large diesel bus, and 1 small diesel bus.
Small bus. Okay, thank you.
And that just coincides with kind of our replacement schedule. We're trying to, with diesel buses, we generally run them about 12 or 13 years.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? On March 7th, my apologies, last Friday, we had our next superintendent conference day of the year. Dr. Wilson had 3 main topics to approach on, and I'd like to turn it over to her just to update the board on what was covered during Superintendent Conference Day.
Thank you. So our staff across the district engaged in learning together in a few areas, AI, artificial intelligence. And as you all know, you approved a policy last month. As soon as we had that approval, we began that work of making sure that we got the message out to all of our district. And so they engaged in the session, everyone across the district engaged in the session in which they looked at appropriate use, a system around red, yellow, green. How do they help the students understand when it's okay to use AI and when they are restricted? But then also highlighting the sessions that we already have available. We do have a number of badge sessions that are available through our teacher center. And so highlighting that work and book studies that are underway to help teachers engage in this work. So it was about exploring the platforms that are out there to support schools across the state. So Magic School and School AI, our teachers were able to dig in and actually try them out. They are specifically designed for schools. And so they take away some of the things that you might find in a generative AI. They take some of those out of the mix because they are specifically designed for schools. And so they were able to engage in that. The feedback was very positive. A number of comments, teachers saying they love it. This has a lot of possibilities and curious and looking forward to learning more. Those are some of the comments. We also had a big week with Franklin Covey through Leader in Me. We had a combo launch day with core instruction as well as a launch day for the middle school and the high school. As you know, we are re-engaging at the middle school and high school. So this was the second phase of that. They had one phase at the start of the year. But we also had a full week of core instruction for our elementary schools. So we had 3 days earlier in the week in which we brought in teachers from across the district so that we keep everyone just immersed in this work. We also had a session around the mandated reporting work. This was a requirement from New York State. Anyone who is a certified educator or in our system must take this new training. The training was centered around really helping to reduce implicit bias whenever we're making decisions. So New York State really wanted to revamp the whole process to help everybody have a different lens on this work. And so there was an emphasis on helping everyone understand adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, right? And just across the state, everybody engaging in that work. So while it was self-paced, when you got into the meat of the work, it was really good, a really good session in my opinion. So those were the items and report card writing. So those are the items that our teachers and our administrators were engaged in last week.
Thank you. Questions?
Thanks, Dr. Wilson. A couple big events happening this weekend. Our high school musical, Once Upon a Mattress, will be performed on the 14th and the 15th at 7:30 p.m. and on the 16th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. There's a QR code up there, but it's also published on our website. I sent email home also this week to get your tickets. Our middle school show sold out all nights. So want people to get their tickets as soon as possible, but always a great event. Our high school musical, can't wait to see it this weekend. Lot of students, a lot of staff and faculty involved in the production, and just can't wait to see it. And should be a great event. And then our Dollars for Scholars craft show is Saturday. So it's gonna be a busy weekend here at Sweet Home, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. All proceeds benefit our Dollars for Scholars program, which last year we spent out about $108,000 in scholarships to our seniors. And so all donations are certainly welcome, and all proceeds really will go right to our students in this. So we'll have over 100 crafters, I think, Mr. Feldman.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 100 crafters.
Loves arts and crafts.
100 crafters. Our high school PTSA will be here doing a basket raffle and bake sale. The Education Foundation will be running the concession stand. So we are ready to roll.
All right. I've received a lot of inquiries over the past several weeks regarding start and stop times for the next school year. We have taken a lot of feedback from our parents and our community regarding these, and published a Q&A on our website to address some of the concerns. We're going to update that this week regarding some of the other things that we've heard, but want to reiterate that we're willing and able and ready to work with our community to make sure this adoption is as smooth as possible, and make sure that their concerns are addressed. So we'll continue to take feedback. I encourage people to send emails. I responded to a few today and took a few phone calls as well, and welcome that feedback and make sure we're addressing those concerns regarding the new start and stop times for the 25-26 school year. I encourage anybody to go to our website and see that, and if there's something that they want addressed, please let me know and we'll make sure it gets up there. And then finally, I've received a lot of questions regarding some of the rhetoric out of Washington regarding our federal funding and where we see it going. And I have appreciated the community's concerns regarding that. I've received a few phone calls and a few emails. And I wanted to let the community know, we have approximately $3.55 million in grant money that's allocated to Sweet Home from the federal government each year, and that's a rolling grant. That includes our Title I, II, and III, and IV funds, as well as some funds for UPK. In addition, there is $1.6 million allocated to us this year as a one-time payment from the EPA for our EV bus initiative. So we're monitoring those monies very closely. In addition to that, we also receive in our special programs department reimbursement for Medicaid expenses that we apply to the federal government for. So we're watching closely what happens with our Medicaid reimbursements as well. So in total, we have about $6 million really that are tied to the federal government, and many salaries are obviously tied to that as well. So what we're monitoring is a daily back and forth from Washington about the changing landscape and whether the Department of Ed stays, whether the Department of Ed goes, whether if the Department of Ed goes, does that money go with it? We are fairly certain that our money is secure this year. In talking with our contacts in Albany, Washington, and then when I was in Albany last weekend, we're fairly certain that that money will stay intact this year. The one I think would be in a lot of question is the EPA funding if the government pulls back on electric vehicle initiatives. So I've also received questions regarding our DEI committee. We believe in the importance of that work and the number of people that are tied to that work and the great work that they have been doing with a motto of all means all. And we are looking at policies and practices of the district that may restrict that motto of all mean all. And I think over the past 3 years, we've seen some of those policies and we've changed some of those policies, whether now we're looking at the code of conduct as well to make sure all means all in there and that there's no barriers to success for any student at Sweet Home. So we will continue to monitor our funding closely and believe our grants are protected this year. I would say I'd be lying if I didn't say there was uncertainty in future years as the policies continue to develop in Washington. But we'll continue to be strong advocates for state and federal with our state and federal officials to maintain and enhance money from the federal government. And that money really is meant to serve underserved populations throughout the country. So it's important to us. We're monitoring it closely. We'll be strong advocates and fight for every dollar that we can. And we believe that we are using that money to make a difference in a lot of our students' lives. So I just wanted to let our community know that we're on it. We're going to continue to monitor it. We're watching everything from news reports to talking to our federal officials. So we'll continue that work.
So just to clarify, when you say funding is secure for this year, you mean the remainder of this school year, not this coming school year?
We believe it's remainder of this school year and next year.
Okay.
At this point. Yeah.
So our UPK that we've worked so hard for, that.
Yep.
Are we okay? I mean, we're registering students now.
Yeah.
For this, so.
We're gonna
you feel
continue to
that
move
will-
forward.
Okay.
Yep.
I would just like to caution that as we are believing that this is the way, we have seen that things change on the daily.
Yep.
So cautiously optimistic that we are
Yes.
following this path.
We believe that the funding is going to remain in place. It's a question as to actually when we receive the money.
Right.
From what I'm hearing in just for this school year, the remainder of this school year, I'm hearing that we're likely going to receive our federal funding post July 1, which makes it super fun for us in the business office. But I'd rather have it that way than not receive the money at all. But again, as Dr. Genestri said, he's heard it at the superintendent's level. We've heard it at the business official level, that the money for the federal grants, that $3.55 million that we receive, looks to be fairly safe for next school year as we sit here today.
if I can say something, when I was in Washington, on my little visit there, they talked about the way it comes out of government, that it could get held up somewhere, and I think that's what you're confirming, right?
Yeah, there's some,
It's
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
distributed
cut you
out.
off.
So go ahead.
No, one of the things that we're hearing is that if the federal education department were to essentially close up shop, that some of that money, rather than now funneling through the federal government, would be pushed to the state. That's kind of what I'm hearing. I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, but that's a distinct possibility. I don't know kind of where we're headed. I saw on the news today that they're shutting down tomorrow to kind of reevaluate and take a look at where they stand. So they've told the education department not to report to work tomorrow, and then see kind of what happens from there.
Thank you.
And that's what I have time.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, upcoming events. It's the beginning of the month. We have all of our PTA, PTSA meetings coming up, the high school musical and the craft show, as we spoke about. Next week is our voting meeting. And a few special activities at our elementary schools. This brings us to the first open session. In accordance with Board Policy 1510, we hold 2 open sessions at tonight's board meeting. During the first open session, comments must focus on an agenda item for this meeting. Speakers must be 16 years old, limit their comments to 3 minutes, and state which agenda item they are addressing. Speakers should announce their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. Non-district residents must include their business name and how they engage with the board. Participants are expected to address comments to the board president, not individual board members, and may not discuss specific individuals or executive session topics. Please note that the board and the administration are not permitted to respond to the comments during these sessions, but we welcome your comments. Thank you for your cooperation. I have 5 people currently signed up, so we'll go through these, and then if there's time left, we will continue. Cassidy Capello.
Hi, thank you. My name is Cassidy Capello, and I'm a parent of a Maplemere Elementary student. And I wanted to point out that it's a privilege to be here tonight as a working mom. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and it's not possible for all working parents to be here tonight. So hopefully I can be a voice for parents who aren't able to be here. I'm addressing the changes in the busing, the start and stop times. I'm the daughter of a retired elementary school principal. I'm the wife of a teacher. My father-in-law is a retired teacher. My sister-in-law is a teacher. I know and believe that public education is good. I know that the core of public education is to educate young minds and keep our children safe. And I'm very concerned that you cannot shape young minds if they're not safely making it to school in the morning. I'm concerned about the plan that you've created for busing and walking for the upcoming school year. And it baffles me because I want to know truly where the consideration is for the safety of young students. And as a mom, to be honest, it terrifies me. The radius does not take into account the actual walking on sidewalk for these young children. As the crow flies, a quarter mile seems pretty quick. These are little legs. The current plan, you're creating a perfect scenario for children to get hit by cars, get picked up by child predators, cross many streets without anyone there to help them safely cross. Depending on the time of the year, I mean, it might even be dark outside. I don't know if all of these streets are well lit. I work in the media. This has already made the local news. I know how quickly things like this can become national news. I worry about how it looks for us. As a district, I worry what we're saying. Hey, come to Amherst, New York, where young children, the age of 5 and 6, are going to be walking alone every morning. Feel free to come pick one up off the street. The walk from my house to Maplemere is probably about 30 minutes if you're walking with purpose. These are little legs. These are kids whose mind wander. And I'm concerned as a working parent to worry that my child even making it to school in the morning. I don't have the luxury of being able to walk my kid to school in the morning. I'm at work at 4:30 every morning. I work a strange schedule. I'm already nervous every day. Just did they get on the bus? Did the babysitter get them on the bus? I know I'm not alone in this feeling as a working parent. I don't feel this plan is realistic. I don't feel it's safe. And I feel that many of these young children are not developmentally mature enough to even walk to school alone unsupervised. Call me a helicopter parent, but my son, who just turned 7, does not even walk to a neighbor's home unsupervised. We walk them or we drive them. It's 2025. We see what's happening in the world today. I can't imagine him and his peers who are still learning how the world works being considered mature or developmentally ready for that kind of responsibility. I ask and beg you to please reconsider your plan. I just keep thinking, gosh, at some point, common sense is going to prevail. These are smart, intelligent people. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Next up, we have Melissa Hockenberry. Did I say that correctly? Thank you.
Hi, thank you guys for letting us speak tonight. We appreciate it. My name is Melissa Hockenberry. I am a parent. I live in the area on Edgewater. I am within that 0.25 mile radius, as you're calling it. And I have 2 kids in preschool who obviously will be greatly impacted by being expected to walk at 5 years old to school. I want to echo everything our last speaker said. Those are my exact fears. And I want to start by saying our children are not lines on a budget. I understand the need for fiscal responsibility. I work in revenue cycle for a hospital. I've been there for 15 years. I get it. You got to make sure that you're solvent. But at the expense of our children, it's not acceptable. And I also want to bring up the fact that I don't know if you considered, but do you understand the liability that the district will be facing, not if, when a child is harmed, if not killed? Do you guys want that on your conscience? Because I can't, in my good conscience, not speak up and say something when one of my fellow neighbors could have to go through that. I wanted to reference back to the meeting minutes that came out of the last school board session, where there was some concern expressed for this. And it was stated that we've already given people the ability to speak, and if it was important enough to them, that they would show up. That's an extremely privileged perspective. I'm a single mom. If I don't work, my kids don't eat. They don't have a roof over their head. And I'm sure there's plenty of other parents like that in the district. So to make these changes that absolutely could put my job at jeopardy, considering that changes give 6 hours and 15 minutes of away time. I don't know about you, but I don't know any adults who can survive off of $25 or $30 an hour or 30 hours per week to make ends meet, especially given the political things going on and the instability in our economy. It's going to get worse. So as if it's not petrifying enough to parents that we have to worry about the safety of our children, on top of it, it was another slap in the face to be told, well, if you want to get to work, you're going to have to pay for before school care. That's just outrageous. I'm a taxpayer just like every other parent in this school district. I was also, when scrutinizing the budget, understand, and hopefully I understand this correctly, the district has a responsibility to bus non-district students that live in the area to private schools and to BOCES and Hamburg. That's a responsibility because their parents are taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer too, as are these parents in here. So to say that we're going to bus private school students before our preschool and kindergartners is absurd to me. And if the justification is taxes, again, we're all taxpayers. Was that a clock on time? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca Rogers.
Okay, hello. I am Rebecca Rogers. I have emailed all of you my concerns, so I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I think you have heard from these people the safety concerns. First and foremost, I do understand changes have to occur and you can't please everybody. You're never gonna please everybody. But safety should be at the very top of the list. First thing, and I'm going to kind of go off a little bit from what they're saying, because they've already killed the safety thing. That's utmost importance. How the information was communicated. I went to the PTO meeting and we were told, slipped in at the very end, this was a last resort. The walking radius was a last resort. I know I'm not the only parent that was told that or heard that. A couple weeks later, we get an email. Oh, it's on the proposal. So I'm not sure what transpired in those couple of weeks. Also, I asked about how you figure out 0.25. I was told 0.25 is 5 minutes. That's not accurate. I live over a half a mile away from the school. It's certainly longer than 5 minutes. There were no maps provided for who's going to be impacted prior to this vote. And the vote was pushed through during snow days. Again, as working parents, we were dealing with how to find somebody to watch our children so we could go to work over these snow days. We did not get communication about when the revote was going to happen. I've also been told that we're getting advance notice so that parents can plan accordingly. We haven't gotten any communication, any of our questions answered about these safety concerns, about how we're going to handle before and after school care. What is the school going to be able to offer us? Because the Just for Kids program is $10,000 for 2 children per school year. I don't have an extra $10,000. I mean, that to me is astronomical. If I decide to send my child to St. Chris, that transportation form is due April 1st. Sending my child to St. Chris is cheaper than sending them to public school and paying for Just for Kids. Another question about safety. Currently, right now, my children are so young that they are not allowed off the bus unless I'm standing at the door. Yet we're saying they can just walk out your school door and say goodbye and walk down the road. I'm just wondering how that was considered. How are schools going to handle those walkers just leaving? Am I going to have to come to the door and sign my child out and provide identification? Or if my child is truly considered a walker, are they just allowed to leave and that's it? The last thing I have, which is honestly my biggest pain point and biggest kicker, is I did look at the FAQ because I know we were told to check out the FAQ that was posted. Point number 5 says the walking radius. This incorporate 0.25 mile walking radius for each elementary schools to reduce the number of buses needed at the elementary level. This proposal will allow us to increase the number of buses available for after-school runs. After school. So we're giving after-school activities for middle school and high school over our elementary children to come and get their education. These are, in the most part, with the exception of pre-K and kindergarten, compulsory age students who are legally required to attend school. After-school activities are not. Thank you for listening.
Linda?
Oh,
Sure.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Huan, and I'm from the Willow Ridge District. I live on 12 Red Maple. I have 2 daughters going to the Willow Ridge School. I have really big concerns about the walking decisions. It is not safe for our kids to walk. I echo all the comments from the previous parents. What I want to focus on today is that I love Sweet Home. My older daughter started Sweet Home during COVID, the first year of COVID. And I love how the district handled everything from Mr. Day's, the meetings, online meetings, listening to all the concerns to really like this open forum. It really made me feel really good, having a firstborn in kindergarten during COVID year. And really made a great impression on me. And I loved it. And I'm involved since then. I have been volunteering as a PTO board members at the Willow Ridge School. I have to say this recent decision really did not sit well with me because it is not the right decision at the expense of our child's safety. I just wanted to comment that I know in the last board meeting, which I think Rebecca covered, that if it's important enough for the parents, then they will be here. Well, we couldn't be here because 1, it was snow day, and 2, I don't think there was enough communication that was sent to the parents. There were a total of 2 emails that were sent in January 15th and 17th, besides the PTO meeting that I know a few of you attended. Besides that, there was no letter sent home. There was no text message to say that there was an important message from the superintendent, please read your email. But we got text message to remind us to read the email about football tickets. There's no seesaw message. Like there was nothing besides the 2 emails. I know you said it was on the news, but as a working parent that have 2 kids with really active activities and also volunteering my time for the PTOs, I really don't have time to watch the news. That's just the truth, right? So 2 emails, and we got an email saying that it's approved without giving any information, without giving any safety measures in place. You're asking our pre-K kids, think about that, 4 years old, you're asking them to walk in a Buffalo winter when it's not safe and there's no safety measures in place. So I'm asking you, I'm begging you to please reconsider. We have started 2 petitions. One is for the walking and one is really asking you to reconsider the whole thing, because another aspect of this is that the impact on the middle school and high school. You're asking the middle school kids now to have to get up at 6:30 to take the 6:30 bus. We don't even get up there early for our work. How is that fair? How is this impacting their education and their well-being? So I'm begging you to please reconsider. For the walk-in petition, I have over 300 supporters. And then for the other one, we just started this weekend and we have close to 100 supports. So please, I'm begging you to reconsider for the safety of our kids. Thank you.
Gina? Ketty.
Sure, sure. Just one copy.
One copy.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Gina Ketty. I am a Willow Ridge parent. I have 2 sons in the district. I live over off of Willow Green. Basically, I'm going to discuss a lot of the same things that have been discussed already tonight. Lots of concerns about this proposal that was passed, which seemed abrupt. I was at that same PTO meeting where it was mentioned that it was a last resort, passing this 0.25 radius walking distance. We all feel a little blindsided by the whole thing, honestly. I know Linda touched on on that a little bit. I'm sorry, my voice is a little off tonight. The points that I want to just concentrate on, since a lot of it is repetitive of what we've already talked about tonight, are again these safety concerns and the burden on the working parents. What I passed out are pictures of our local sidewalks. Now, these pictures were taken about 2 weeks ago when the snow had already started to melt, and which was like a hard layer of ice. That day that my children and I were walking to school, my one son fell. He didn't hurt himself, but it just kind of is an example of the concerns. You know, my husband has been in touch with the superintendent here, and you know, in general, what we're not getting a clear definition of what's going on. Is it because there's a budget, or was it because we couldn't hire drivers? And in one email I have that we can hire 40 drivers tomorrow, there just aren't any to hire. Well, if that's the case, then what are we doing with this money to reallocate towards safety? There's been nothing to indicate what we're doing for safety. That of the sidewalks, that of crossing guards. Again, at Willow Ridge, there are 2 main entrances to that elementary. I can't speak of the other 3, but of the 2, there is a crossing guard at the main entrance where the cars come in, but there is a main entrance in the back of the school where a huge part of the neighborhood can enter. You know, are those sidewalks going to be plowed? Is there going to be someone there to supervise these small young children walking to their homes now? These are some real concerns. Again, the burdens on the working parents. You know, you have buses that were picking up our children at 8:10, 8:15, and now we're not allowed to drop these kids off till 8:40, 8:45 with the new time changes. What are we doing for that 30 minutes? That every minute counts in the morning when you have especially children that are in different schools, middle school, elementary. What are we doing about that? There's just been no answers. If we're not reconsidering this proposal, what are we doing about these concerns? There's major concerns here, burdens on families. Again, we are taxpayers just like everybody else. How can it be just taken away from us like that? That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other speakers tonight?
There's-
I have a question before I go through this stand. As we have multiple plans also, I mentioned that. Okay, Kim Perini, 8 Monarch Drive. I have one child, as of next year, I have one child that will be at Maple Mere and 2 at the middle school. Currently, I have 2 at the Maple Mere. So as you know, I'm against all these recommendations for start and stop time. I actually have a question, but I know you can't answer it, okay? So for the elementary, I actually have a question. Will there be a specific time one must be picked up for early release? Like right now in Maple Mere, if you're gonna have an early release, you have to be picked up by 1:30. You can't be picked up at the 2:50 when they're released. The reason why I'm asking this is the child that will be at Maple Mere next year, he's on a travel baseball team. He can't miss these travel tournaments. They start at 3:30. I can't even go in the pickup line to pick him up. So that's why I'm asking that question. Please don't proceed with these proposals. It was a rush vote, 5.9% opposed, according to the first slide. And now I'm going to be speaking on behalf of me and someone in the audience. Against the middle school sharing the buses, changes will not be providing, at least my child, it's not going to be providing a least restrictive environment for one of my children on the bus because she has a bus accommodation and now she's not going to be riding with her peers. You have to think about the bullying that is happening right now on the middle school buses. I'm against, we're totally against middle school and high school sharing buses for the times and all the other things that go on with it. It's a 9:15 start now, and now you're expecting 7:40. I live 2 minutes away from the middle school, probably walking. But yet, her accommodations are not gonna be met if we do this. I'm gonna be driving her instead because I don't want her missing school because the small buses leave early and arrive late. And in regard to the person in the audience, she's saying that there are very bad influences the kids. And from her quote, my daughter was given vape and weed by a high school kid. Just please consider a revote because this is the only option. There's so many opposed and not everyone can be at the meetings as stated. That's all.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Mancine. I live on Glen Haven Drive, and my daughter goes to Glendale Elementary. I think the parents here tonight spoke very, very well as to the point that a lot of us parents are feeling right now about our kiddos in the elementary schools. And I would be remiss if I didn't stand here before you myself and say that I urge you to reconsider for the safety of our kiddos. Points that weren't really brought up tonight that I just want to speak to is not only for us parents, the stress that this brings, but to our staff and our teachers at the elementary schools. I can only imagine what this is going to do to them. I can say that I also love Sweet Home. I love Glendale. They are an extension of my family, and just as much, there are staff and teachers concerned for our littles who will be walking in winter by themselves and not have a process set in place, and to put that back on the schools to have to make those decisions of what that's going to look like. And the chaos that already ensues in that pickup and drop off line in the morning, this is going to increase that. There are going to be more parents having to drop up and pick up. And I think that the processes weren't really thought out well prior to this vote. I also just want to say that if we can have a parent forum about cell phone usage in a school, I think we can have a public forum for parents to express their concerns about the transportation. I agree. It was snuck up on us, and I just want to speak on behalf of parents and our teachers and staff who work so, so hard for our kids. So I urge you to reconsider and to revote on this and to listen to the community. Again, it is a privilege to be here tonight. I am a mom. I'm a full-time working mom. I have 3 kiddos with special needs, and I don't have the time or availability to come to every single meeting, but I made it tonight because I wanted to represent the people who couldn't be here. So thank you for your time, and please, I urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Okay, that brings us to our new business. Items A through O, we'll vote on next week. A is the optical scan for voting machines. We have
Standard language we've used every year. Look familiar.
We have to use it every year for voting purposes. Excuse me.
B is the public hearing and district vote for our May 20th vote.
Sorry, can I interrupt for a second? The optical scan, is there some conversation at all going back to the old methods? The state, I thought there was some conversation on the federal level.
I don't know that.
I have-
McNamara, I don't know if you
Not that I'm
know.
aware of.
I've heard nothing on that, and we go through Erie County to do it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but-
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, B is the annual public hearing and district vote for May 20th. Questions, comments?
Oh, I did have a question on that. I'm sorry. We're moving it to the gym this year as opposed to being in here.
I actually brought that up as a topic of discussion for the board. That's up to the board. So only because of the amount of events and people that will be on campus that day, between the track meet, art show, music concerts, walking from the high school down, we're not getting much traffic from those events to the vote. It was just a suggestion. That's something that we could talk about or, bring up at any time. So
Today or later?
today.
Have this
or-
conversation now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was just wondering like what the goal was there. So I know that
Yep.
we kind of put the Panther logo vote kind of bundled with this because we do want to increase voter turnout. Right? We wanted to.
No,
increase
well,
voter
actually, we want to find a Panther.
Okay.
And then make sure everybody has a voice in that, yeah.
Okay, but however, we, at the same time, we'd figure if people were going to come vote for the Panther, they might also vote on the budget and they would vote for their new school
Sure.
board members. So,
Absolutely.
so the other events that we have going on at that same night,
Yes.
if I, re-
Actually, sorry.
go ahead, no,
It's throughout the
Track
day
meet.
because we have the elementary track meet
okay.
on the track field.
Yes, voting.
Throughout during the day. So
Because I feel like we did this last year too, right? From what I remember, we
the
had, there was a
track meet was
concert
on
or
the same day,
something
yes.
at the high school at that same day.
Yep.
Okay.
Voting is open 7 AM to 9 PM. So it's like,
It's an all-day
yeah,
affair.
and there's different things going on at different times. But yes, you are correct. That is.
But school is in session that day.
So we would plan to work with, we've already talked to Principal Baker about coming up with an alternative plan for because this would be, if approved, just in the gym area. And we could come up with an alternative for PE that day because they have the back gym available, turf gym, outdoors if it's a nice day, et cetera, et cetera.
Made a suggestion about a shuttle for the seniors. So I'd like that to be considered.
We'll find a driver.
I'll pay for it. All right.
So was this brought up, just so I have an understanding of the history, this was brought up because this was not convenient for people
Jim is
or?
not gonna-
Just because we had so many people attending events down by the high school, in the high school wing, it was just an idea that I thought I'd throw out there to see if it would attract more people to vote, honestly.
Was the intention in the gym or in the foyer in front of the gym? And
There's been some debate about in the gym and the foyer, so we could, the side parking lot to the gym could be an access, and then we open those doors, could be an access point. There's security to keep voters and the public away from school as school goes on, but we could usher people from the parking lot through those doors, and the ballots could be in there as a convenient measure.
and one of my thoughts with that, either one, is I wondered, since and whoever's running, I know two of our gentlemen are running this year, plus whoever's running with them, have to be at least 100 feet from the
Yes.
voting place.
Yep.
And I'm curious if we can do that in a reasonable thing, or we dump it in the middle of the parking lot. I haven't measured, so I don't know.
Yeah, that side parking lot is we considered the staging area for that. And we could map out that if the board is interested in me looking into it more.
So I know that for most elections, like regular elections outside of school board, like bigger ones, right? When the polling place is a school, you don't have school because it's a security concern, which is random people walking into your school building with kids. So you mentioned security. So what does that look like?
So just like the door here to the high school is a secure entrance, there's a gate from the athletic wing into the rest of the school. And the cafeteria doors could be locked so no one could get inside the cafeteria doors during that time. So we can lock off the athletic wing from the rest of the building. So none of the public would have access to the high school.
And that wouldn't interfere with how kids are getting to and from class? Because I know anytime that I've been at the high school, there have been teenagers everywhere.
Yeah, yep. No, it would not. We would make sure it would not.
When does this have to be decided by?
For this vote,
I mean, to give people proper
for
notice.
this, for March 18th.
Oh, it would have to be?
Because of the legal notice. We have
So
to.
next
Oh, we have to
week
put the
we
legal
vote on
notice out.
this.
So next week, yeah, my apologies. Okay. Just an idea, but it will make either one work and, whatever you decide. So we could talk about it more next week and vote and put it on the ballot or put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Danielle is.
Show up at the right spot.
Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Everybody good?
All good.
Alrighty.
No, you're fine.
Moving on to special ed class placements and preschool class placements.
It's hundreds of pages to get through this month, so I'm making some progress. It's the yearly IEPs that I'm going through, so I'll have it done by next week.
Okay. Monthly financials will be posted. Disposal of obsolete property.
I've got a question about that. I see it's lots and lots of iPads. How are we disposing? It didn't say anywhere.
They go to, we have a recycling company that we do through, I think it's Sun King, if I remember correctly. We do boxes of them. They come and pick them and they dispose of them properly.
Do they also take care of wiping the drives or destroying the drives?
We do all that.
You do that
We do
here?
all that,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
Cool, thank you.
Do we get any money back from recycling those or no?
We get a small amount, yes.
Okay, that brings us to F for bids. We have our printing, various printing bids. Questions? G brings us to the request for proposal of an athletic trainer. H is an internal auditor. J is an external auditor.
I would say Brian and I, along with John's staff, had a chance to sit down with them as they made their presentation last week. I don't know, the days are all running together. I thought they put together a very good, solid presentation with what they would do for us, how they would do it, and any additional services that they would offer if we happen to need them. I thought it was worth it.
K is
Is that the amount
For the first year?
per year for 5 years?
No, there's actually a
There's
different,
varying pricing
Okay,
structures.
thank you.
Over the course of.
it's a little bit front loaded because there's a lot
Read that,
more
but I just wanted
work
to
in the
make sure.
first year. And then the prices actually would go down for the other
Okay.
4 years.
Thank you.
Okay, K is the Shasta agreement. L is a temporary grant of easement to the town of Amherst.
Is that for the sewer project finally moving forward?
Yep.
Oh, yay.
It's actually for an easement piece of property, just as we come up north up Sweet Home, just beyond the property line of UB, right as we get to our service center. So in that area there.
We will have Melot taken care of by the time they need it.
Yes.
M is the second reading of our policies.
Could I ask can I make a request for those policies to be put on the screen so the public can see what we're voting on? Okay, more importantly, on the first readings. Can we have a subject line there that I think state of New York and the federal government have different views on that? I know this one is particular or specific to, I think it's pregnant women. But there's a lot there and I just kind of curious, the public knows what we're voting on there, so.
Give me just one
You
second.
want more than just what's on the agenda? You want each individual policy up
The-
there or
the
what is,
actual-
I'm confused on what you're
actual-
asking.
The actual policy itself that we see in the backup that can be done.
I think he means the pink spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's many pages too. So.
The ones for the first reading is 46 pages.
I know. So if we can just get through the first couple of pages, so at least the public can see what we're looking at.
This is actually going back to the first reading, 3421, is that the one about Title IX?
Yes.
It's actually reverting back in time. The only change on there is the female Title IX coordinator. That's based on changes to the, from the federal government that we're not moving forward with several policy changes that have been recommended.
Right.
They've all been pushed out and we're going back to where we were.
Again, there's a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication out there, so I'd like it to just be on the screen to show exactly what we're voting. Could just be the solution that says we're doing this. That's fine. I just want it on the screen so the public can see it.
That's fine. I also would like to remind the public that it's posted on our website.
Yeah, so that's from our website. If you go to the board page on our website and type in the meeting,
That'd be the
you'll
first
have
reading.
access to those documents there.
That was the second reading.
Yeah. So these are all the first reading policies.
Is that what you mean, Mr. Ravenhold? Right
Yeah, that'd be
there?
fine. If you
Okay.
could do something like that again, just tie the actual vote into what we're voting on and so the public can see it. They can, I guess, always go back to the website and look at it, suggest, but again, it's just, I like them to see what we're voting on as we're voting on it, if that's logistically okay. Thank you.
How long should I put it?
Sorry. Hard to see it.
Okay. That brings us to Smart Schools Preliminary Investment Plan. We'll have more information on that next week. Is the public hearing? Any comments or questions? That brings us back to open session. Would anyone like to address the board? And if so, would you like me to repeat the rules?
Kim Franny, 8 Monarch Drive, and I want to address some of the topics that were discussed by other members in the first session. I just want to give you an example. So I'm against everything that the elementary schools parents were talking about, but also the middle school, of course, sharing the buses is the main concern. Time kind of a little, but I want to give you an example. So my kid did go to a private school for a year and a half. And I see where the speaker is coming from, that you're catering to private schools over your own students and district. As an example, he went to a school about 10 minutes away that was a private school. There was a high school next to it that was a private school. But so he got out at 2:40 and he got on the bus with two people in his grade level and like maybe two middle schoolers also that were in the Sweet Home District. Then they went to a BOCES center to pick up. And then they went back right next to the school because Sacred Heart was right next to it. And they got out at like 2:55, okay? So 2:40, he gets home at 10 after 3. So how is that possible? 30 minutes? He is getting home at 10 after 3, where this year he's on this bus. He gets on the bus, according to the app, he gets on the bus at 3 o'clock. He is on the bus and he gets off at 3:40, 3:45. So how are we having public schools getting off the bus if 45 minutes after? We're not catering to the public schools. Give the public schools more buses and contract out these routes. I mean, his bus is not even full either when he was at the or the private school bus, okay? And why I'm against and the other part of the sharing of the buses, there were high school students on this bus, but again, the bus was not packed. That's my whole reason. The bus is gonna be packed because even in one of the superintendent's slides was, we need to fill these buses. Why are we, the expense of middle schoolers getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock to get on a bus or 2 hours earlier? That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Kim. Anybody else?
Hello again. My name is Linda Huan. I forgot to mention one point, so I wanted to come back and thank you for the opportunity for me to speak again. I wanted to know if the Building Use Committee has considered the neighborhood pickup instead of eliminating buses for the houses near the schools. Because I heard just today that Williamsville is going to neighborhood pickups. And they are door to door. We're not the only school in the region that's door to door. As far as I know, Williamsville is door to door for elementary school. So is Orchard Park. And I just heard today that they learned from their superintendent that they are going to neighborhood pickup starting in September. So if they are doing that, why are we not considering that? Because I heard that that was on a proposal. But that was shut down. So can we look into that to see if that's gonna make an impact? So everybody will have a chance and get to school safely instead of, just cutting the bus and tell the parents to figure out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Melissa Hockenberry again. Just wanted to reiterate the need for the revote. And I think it would be beneficial to you guys to potentially reconsider the communication methods. I thought it was ridiculous. I got 3 text messages about the Powder Puff game, but I didn't get any text messages about this. I can only imagine how many parents are going to be blindsided when they get their little postcard in the mail talking about their bus route. And they're figuring out, how am I going to actually keep food on the table? How can I keep my job? What am I going to do? This wasn't thought through. And I think it was also extremely disingenuous of the folks on the board when reached out to. First of all, we didn't get our answers met. I got maybe 1 out of the 5 questions that I would answer. I had asked questions about bus stops that never got answered. And actually, out of, I think, the 4 or 5 emails that were exchanged, I had asked in every single email, will this mean you're eliminating my bus service? And not once did somebody answer that questioned directly. Neither did they answer the bus stops. It was just financial decisions and bus driver shortage. Secondly, I think it's important that you do a public session to let parents, speak out. This is going to be all over the news, and I would hate for it to get to the point of national news. But I, for one, think that this is completely unsafe, and I will keep raising my hand until somebody tells me what safety measures are going to be put in place for 5-year-olds. And I just want to ask y'all something to consider internally. Don't have to answer out loud. Would you let your 5-year-old or 4-year-old grandchild or child walk to school unattended in snow, ice, windstorms, in the dark, in the morning? Knowing that there's, I think at last I checked, 23 sexual predators on the sexual registry throughout Amherst. That alone should be of major concern to all of us, that we are going to publicly let people know, hey, our kids are going to be unattended, because you're, again, forcing parents to choose between food on the table and getting their kids to school and keeping them safe. I think that's a lot to ask, considering the school district is now coming back to say, hey, and we're going to do this for you. Hey, we're going to open the doors early for you. Hey, we're going to make sure that you don't have to pay additional costs for that before school care because of the changes that we made. Instead, it has been, in my opinion, kind of callously thrown back in our hands to say, deal with it. And the public, if it's important enough to them, that they will show up. This is important to a lot of people, but there's a lot of people who also don't know this is going on based on the communication methods chosen by the school. So I would urge you, please consider a revote, and please consider listening to the parents who pay the tax dollars that keep these doors open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Mulcarrick. I'm an English as a second language teacher at Willow Ridge Elementary. I'm up here to just echo the different things that our parents have said here tonight, but as a strong advocate for our multilingual learners and our multilingual families, it's discouraging to hear the way that the communication was sent out to our families. I'm curious if the communication sent out to our families, was it translated? Was it accessible for our multilingual families? As we look around our room tonight, I don't see any of our multilingual families represented. Are our multilingual families being considered in our communication on what's going to be happening with walking, with different bus times? Just like to Ms. Hockenberry's point, parents that might get the little card in the mail, is that going to be communicated to our multilingual families in their native language? Are they going to have the access that the rest of our students have? As a district that prides ourselves on our DEI mission and motto, we need to be making these considerations as well for our multilingual families. We have an incredible, beautiful, diverse community. We have amazing parents, we have amazing supporters, teachers, advocates for these families, and it is our duty as educators to consider them in these conversations. So thank you so much. I look forward to hearing changes that will be made about these conversations.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, everybody. I'm Christine Stewart. I am here on behalf of the High School Musical. It is this weekend, and we are excited for production, and we want to welcome everyone in the room to come and see our kids. Our high schoolers have been working really, really hard. They were evaluated by Shays today. We are up for a Shays Award. I can assure you that this is a very funny show, very age appropriate. And we encourage our board to please come out and see it. I'll be here afterwards. I know some of you have already gotten tickets, and I thank you for that. And to our elementary school parents, please, it's a princess theme. It's the princess and the pea. So don't let the Once Upon a Mattress kind of throw you off. It is got some adult humor in it, but it'll slide right under the kids. It's absolutely a wonderful night out. So please come and join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I guess I just want to echo some thoughts that came up. My name's Cassidy Capello, spoke earlier. With the neighborhood pickups, are we considering the thought of bus stops? Because I guess I would feel a whole lot more safe about a group of children waiting together for the bus than walking independently. Again, I ask, would we let a 5-year-old walk down the street unsupervised to go to a neighbor's house? We would not. Why is this even being considered? If we have such an amazing school district, which I'm so in love with my kids' experience so far, why are we not considering the safety of these young children? As a parent, the only thing I care about is, are my kids safe? That's really all that matters to me as a parent, is are they safe? Are their needs taken care of? And safety is a need. If we have the ability to have such a passionate thing about we're getting a new mascot and we're getting 26 shirts involved, how cool is that? Why aren't we taking the kids' safety as seriously as we are about a new mascot? I mean, man, I'm really excited. The art looks great, but are these kids going to make it to school in the morning? That terrifies me as a working parent. Terrifies me that it feels like the common sense is lacking here. And I know you are a room of educated, smart, professional people. And many of you, if not all of you, deal with young children on a daily basis. Where is the common sense? These kids are not developmentally ready for this. The world is not safe. The sidewalks are not safe. There's nothing about it that makes sense for these young children to be walking. And I please urge you to listen to the voices here and know that just because we're the only ones here speaking tonight, we represent the voices of a bunch of parents who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you all for your comments. That brings us to personnel. We'll be voting on it next week. Anybody have any comments or questions?
I don't have a comment or question on personnel, but I was wondering, can I just make a general comment?
Sure.
I just want to say I do appreciate everybody being here. I know that we cannot answer questions, but I've said this when we've had large audiences and parents and stakeholders here. I know with 100% certainty that every board member considers these comments. And after the board meetings, whether it's through other discussions we have on the phone, privately, or then we debate out here, we do consider all of these things and we take them to heart. I voted against this proposal, but I also accept the outcome of it. I think what's important to know is that a lot of things from our perspective, we're looking at it at a high level. Some people are looking at a lot of more details, and we do, have to consider a lot of pieces to it. What I think is important now is that all these comments, and I'm confident in the district and in our board members that we will work to improve and make this the best implementation. A lot of legislation you see nationally is approved, right? And then there's subsequent tweaks made to it. And we've seen that over time. And so I'm confident that, you're going to be heard. Not everything is going to go exactly as everybody wants it, but I know that we're going to work hard to make the implementation of this work as best we can. For me, somebody asked the question, would you have your, young child? I have a 4-year-old and I have 4 kids, a 4-year-old. The oldest is 12. And I won't let my 4-year-old go across the street to the cul-de-sac without an adult. So, I know, I understand and I empathize. So those are things we got to continue to work on, for you. And I think I'm fairly confident I speak to the board and speak on behalf of the board in that, we do take all these comments to heart and we are trying really hard for the best outcome for the community. it is really hard decisions a lot of times. But again, I appreciate, and I know we all appreciate all the comments and feedback.
Sure.
So I have a question kind of on the heels of that. This is my first go around, right? This is my first year on the board, and it is a very steep learning curve. And sometimes when you ask more than one person the same question, you get different answers, right? Either due to a person's base knowledge or their experiences with things. I don't know how this works, but I heard the word revote like 7 times tonight. Is that a thing that happens after a proposal gets passed by the board majority?
In my experience, it has not happened, but I will defer to.
Not in my 19 years.
So is it that it hasn't happened or that it cannot happen? Because I want to make sure that we're listening to everyone that was here tonight when they're asking this of us. Is this something that we cannot do or that we are not willing to do?
It would be a long discussion. Cannot? No, there's never a cannot. I mean, a board can vote on things. To get it back to the floor requires a long parliamentary procedure if you're going to vote on the exact same thing. Otherwise, if you're starting over on specific things, that's a different story.
Right. And that's, I think, where we kind of run into a wall about this, is that we can vote on it and the results might be exactly the same. But I think what people are asking for, if I'm hearing you all clearly, is that there are pieces of this that they are not comfortable with, that they are not willing to say, okay, this is what I want for my children. So I know that the Building Use Committee has worked exhaustively on this. I know that you have created 700 different plans and there was something wrong with each of them, right? I get that. I wasn't there for any of it, but you have told all of us that that was what happened leading up to this. But when we listen to the concerns of the community, either through the emails that have been sent or the phone calls, the text messages, the people that have showed up, there is massive amount of discomfort around the kids walking. Is that component of it something that can be taken back to the drawing board and reworked?
I believe that's what Mr. Rapidold's asking for, is to add the
That's,
next week's
if I can, early on in the meeting, folks, I did ask for an additional item on the agenda, our voting meeting next week, to take into consideration exactly what everybody said tonight, because we have received and we have heard all your concerns. And I've actually encouraged folks to send emails, to come to board meetings, to tell us why you have concerns here. I personally had some concerns with it. And as Brian said, I voted against it. The board voted for it and moving forward with it. So I think myself, as a board, single board member, all I can do is encourage a reconsideration and maybe some tweaks to the plan so that it helps you, the community, who we represent. We work for you, not for the district. And that's my position on that. And that's why I hope, again, we have a good discussion next week and we maybe can find something, a tweak, not necessarily a revote, but something we can do with that meets the needs of our community, especially our parents and their children.
So
Thank you.
I will welcome the conversation. I have also heard every single one of you. I've read every single email. I have not been able to respond due to personal reasons. I'm not going to respond due to personal reasons. I can't. All of that to be said, I would like to remind the board that in the proposals of this plan, there have not been very many specifics because they haven't been worked out yet. There is a reason that the bus routes don't come out until August. It's because it takes a long time to plan for a new school year. So some of the questions we don't have the answers to yet. We will continue to make sure that every single one of your babies is safe, because when it comes down to it, every single 3,500 students in this district are our children. We think of them that way. And I know that there are many of you that do not believe that. But if my children were still in elementary school, they would be walking. And as a parent, I would be walking with them or driving them. I'm a working parent as well. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Okay, well.
We are
if I-
not doing this.
If I can just.
What I am saying is there are still many pieces of this plan that need to be worked out. We do not have them.
Okay.
We won't have them next week either, but we will welcome the conversation.
why did we vote on it then, though? That's the thing
So
that I
we're gonna
don't
have
really-
6 months of work where nothing happens?
You
We're gonna
can't
pay
move
people?
forward unless we had the okay to move
You
forward.
can't schedule bus routes until we know who's coming to the school.
No, I
We have like a-
understand, I
a 10 to
understand that,
15%
but the
turnover every
components
year.
that you're talking about that are not figured out yet, I don't know what that means. So we're
I just
talking
said
about the
bus
walking,
routes.
but I'm talking about the walking piece.
Right.
Just listen to parents talk about how uncomfortable they are with the walking piece. This is not a bus route question. This is a kid
But
walking to school
But until we
question.
start doing the bus routes and mapping out the walkers.
But we already
can't-
mapped out the walkers. We put the maps on the
No.
website. The radius maps are on the website.
Did we contact those
Maps.
families and say, your children will be walking?
not
No,
yet.
we did not. So that is a tentative, roughly this 0.25 mile radius, roughly. These children are going to have to walk. Children with accommodations, like special ed students, are not going to have to walk. They will probably get a bus. There are many things that haven't been discussed at this level that have been discussed behind closed doors. In order for the administration and the buildings to do the work that requires to be done, if this change goes through, we as a board have to say, yes, do the work. That's what we did last month. We said, yes, do the work. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out how it's going to work with safety and culture and all of the things that we find important here at Sweet Home. We asked for that to be done. And anybody that says otherwise about any of us sitting here clearly has no idea what's going on.
Well, I guess I don't have an
I-
idea what's going on, and I would love for you to not yell at me.
I would
Love
love
for us
to
to
not have
keep
my
calm.
integrity called into question.
Amy, I
on the
didn't
floor.
call your integrity into anything.
We're moving to executive session. May I have a
Okey-dokey.
motion and a second to move to executive?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will not be returning.